It's easy for them to do. They're adept at doing a ditty, getting rid of you and not having no handprints on it. Like this is how they traffic. And so you will have to really not be scared, not be acting like you're not scared. You'd have to really be too stupid to be scared.
They call them pig parties, Hollywood's darkest open secret. Those hidden after-hours scenes where the cameras stop rolling, but the real show begins. No red carpet, no flashing lights, just twisted power games behind closed doors. People whisper that these are the places where stars are made, favors are traded, and souls get sold for fame. K.A. spills the truth, saying real Hollywood doesn't happen on set. It happens in those secret rooms where silence is currency. And here's where it gets crazy. David's name just got dragged into this nightmare after what happened with Celeste Riva Hernandez, a 15-year-old girl found lifeless inside his Tesla. Her cause of death still deferred, no clear answers. Friends claim they thought she was his college girlfriend, but that just makes the story even darker. Everyone used to say David was quiet, shy, harmless. But the internet's not buying it. They're saying that kind of silence doesn't come from shyness. It comes from guilt. K.A.'s angle hits like lightning. In Hollywood, nothing comes free. You want fame? You want the deal? You want that shiny spotlight? Then allegedly, you've got to give something up. And the whispers don't stop there. People are saying Celeste wasn't just another sad story. She was part of a sinister exchange, a supposed sacrifice linked to one of those forbidden pig parties. It sounds insane, right? But the timing, it's too sharp to ignore. David blew up overnight, going from TikTok fame to an Interscope-backed artist with millions of streams and a debut album all within months. Something about that rise feels way too fast, way too clean, and way too quiet.
Now, there are individuals who have looked to clues in his shows or his songs for alleged connections to Celeste, and to be clear, nothing has officially been verified. Here's the thing, even if you look at lyrics from his song Romantic Homicide from back in 2022, this is what seems to be creating the conversation. The lyrics say, I mean, even in the back of my mind, you died, and I didn't even cry. No, not a single tear. But again, nothing remotely to suggest this has anything to do with Celeste.
Celeste's world spiraled fast, missing reports piling up, her name fading into police files, until one day she's found lifeless inside his trunk. And instead of the full-force investigation everyone expected, all we got were crumbs, half-truths, vague reports, and a dead end from the coroner's office. David stayed silent. No press, no statement, nothing. That eerie silence is exactly why this story refuses to die. When Katt Williams says the game's rigged with rituals, people instantly recall other chilling tragedies. Whitney's hotel nightmare, Kanye speaking on his mom, Michael's passing right before his comeback tour. The pattern's there, like a shadow, a huge rise, a sudden death, and whispers of sacrifice. Now David's name sits in that same storm of suspicion. Allegedly, Celeste wasn't just collateral damage. She was the price of admission into the elite world Katt's been warning us about. But what exactly is a pig party? It sounds like some corny urban legend, but in Hollywood's darkest gossip circles, that name's been around for decades. Depending on who's talking, it's part initiation, part humiliation ritual, and part freak show for the industry elite. Allegedly, if you're invited, you either play along or you're cut off, and that can mean your career stops dead in its tracks. These aren't your typical celebrity house parties with champagne towers and A-list DJs. Pig parties allegedly go way darker. They're said to be setups, tests where stars, execs, and desperate newcomers are pushed to their limits. Cameras roll, people get caught in compromising situations on purpose, and for what? So the ones in power always have leverage. If you want to say no later, it's already too late. They've got the footage, they've got you locked in. Too bad, there's already a tape with your face on it. And here's the wild part. None of these stories are new. People have been whispering for decades that Hugh Hefner's mansion wasn't just a playground, but a polished-up pig party in disguise. And Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut? Conspiracy circles swear that wasn't just a movie. They believe Kubrick was exposing the very rituals Hollywood's been hiding in plain sight.
Charles, any idea who is behind this swatting?
No idea. I mean, we've asked police. They want to try and track those things down when it happens, but they don't know on this one. And they, I think they figured out pretty quickly when David's parents came to the door that that's what was going on here. They didn't see any activity, and the area where their home is in a very rural area. It's not like there's a lot of houses around. So, you know, when police are pulling up, there's no activity. It would have been pretty obvious to them if there was some crisis going on as they pulled up.
Sure, but you can't escape the date, September 18th, and it's a day after the LA house that he was renting was raided. Coincidence or something more?
It does seem strange to say that this is coincidence, and his parents said to the police, somebody is messing with us. And clearly, even if David wasn't at the house, his parents are aware of what's going on back in LA.
Jaguar Wright, Orlando Brown, even Katt Williams himself have all painted disturbing pictures of these private freak shows where nothing is off limits. In this version of the story, pig parties aren't just about scandal or gossip. They're about raw power. Allegedly, they work like initiation ceremonies designed to break down fresh talent and test their loyalty. That's why Katt always says Hollywood doesn't reward talent, it rewards obedience. And if you've ever wondered how someone rockets to fame overnight, the street theory says the answer isn't just hustle. It's what they allegedly left behind at one of those parties. So where does David fit into this? The theory is chilling. Celeste wasn't just a girlfriend. She was allegedly brought in as part of that dark scene. Her fake ID, her presence at clubs and industry events despite being underage, her disappearance months before, all of it feeds the idea she was being moved through spaces way too grown for a 15-year-old girl. It's disturbing but fits the gossip lore. Pig parties have always thrived on imbalance. Powerful men, vulnerable young women, and a system built to cover it all up. If David really was at one of those gatherings, if Celeste really was there with him, then her tragic end starts to look less like coincidence and more like consequence. And that's why Katt's warning hits so hard. Allegedly, Hollywood doesn't just party. It ritualizes. And once you step into that room, you don't walk out the same. Now here's where the whispers turn personal. David isn't some washed-up star chasing clout. He's that quiet kid who blew up on TikTok out of nowhere. One minute he's uploading short clips in his bedroom, the next he's got a major label deal, red carpet invites, and a debut album before most people could even pronounce his stage name. To fans, it looked like a Cinderella story, but to the gossip world, it looked like something way darker, a rise that came with a hidden cost. Then comes Celeste Rivas Hernandez. On paper, she was just a 15-year-old girl who kept going missing through 2024 until she was found lifeless in the trunk of David's Tesla. But that's where the timeline starts to look twisted. Friends said they'd seen her with him often, at clubs, music events, even at private parties where minors had no business being. They thought she was 19, a college student from USC. She wasn't. She was a kid walking into adult spaces with a fake ID, and David was allegedly right there beside her every time. That's why the so-called sacrifice theory refuses to die. Katt Williams always says it. Hollywood doesn't hand out fame for free. There's always a trade-off. In this dark version of the story, Celeste was allegedly that trade. Her repeated disappearances, her mysterious reappearances, and her heartbreaking end all lined up with the exact window when David's career exploded overnight. And then there's the symbolism. David's breakout track, Romantic Homicide, had that eerie line. In the back of my mind, I do. At first, people thought it was just heartbreak poetry, dark art from a creative kid. But now, fans are listening again, and it's giving chills. Especially when you pair it with his alter ego, Eat Tommy, a character soaked in blood imagery.
New footage has surfaced that potentially shows Celeste Rivas Hernandez's perhaps final movements caught on tape before she vanished and was ultimately found dead in a car registered to singer David. This, along with new details about that car and how long it may have been abandoned, are giving us a better sense of a timeline as everyone searches.
Suddenly, what once felt like edgy expression is starting to look more like a masked confession, and that's what's shaking fans to their core. Even David's old TikTok clip, the one where he joked about chopping chicken if she talked to other dudes, has been dragged back up and reinterpreted as a giant red flag. Nobody's saying there's hard proof, because there isn't. But in Hollywood conspiracy talk, proof isn't what people look for. It's patterns. And this pattern is one the culture knows far too well. A rising star, a sudden tragedy, an eerie silence from the team. And then a career that keeps soaring until the whispers finally catch up. So when people say Celeste was David's alleged sacrifice, they're not talking about court evidence. They're talking about the chilling alignment of fame and death. The idea that one life was cut short so another life, another career, could rise. And if this all really went down at one of the pig parties Katt Williams keeps warning about, it would make Celeste's death look less like an accident and more like an initiation, allegedly. One reason this sacrifice theory refuses to fade is because it doesn't live in a vacuum. Hollywood's history is stacked with rumors about stars who gave something up right before their biggest breaks, allegedly. Take Whitney Houston. To this day, people still side-eye the fact she passed away the same weekend Clive Davis held his legendary pre-Grammy party, her body upstairs while the music elite toasted downstairs. Then, just years later, her daughter, Bobby Christina, died in eerily similar circumstances. Conspiracy theorists dubbed it the double sacrifice, a generational price allegedly paid to keep the machine running. Add Kanye West's cryptic comments about his own losses into the mix, and the narrative only grows darker. It's this long, messy history that keeps dragging David's name back into the fire, because to conspiracy minds, he's just the latest player in a decades-old ritual that never stopped. Kanye said it himself. His mother, Donda, was his sacrifice. Whether people believe him or not, it lines up with the moment his career transformed from rising rapper to unstoppable global mogul. Katt Williams constantly points to Kanye as proof that even insiders slip up and admit the game isn't clean. And then there's Aaliyah. Officially, her death in 2001 was a tragic plane crash, but plenty of people still whisper about the shady details. The pilot allegedly pressured to overload the plane, the timing of her rising stardom right before she passed. Her death cemented her as an icon while leaving her lane wide open for others in the industry to fill. Even Michael Jackson fits the pattern. His sudden death in 2009 came just before a historic comeback tour projected to pull in billions. The autopsy called it a homicide by propofol overdose, but conspiracy minds don't see an accident, they see a megastar allegedly removed because he was too powerful, too independent, too hard to control. And then there's the party culture. Diddy's infamous gatherings have long been painted as freak-offs where artists are tested, compromised, and controlled. Jaguar Wright swore in interviews that half the industry is owned because of what they did at those events. The term pig party just feels like a newer, nastier label for the same alleged machine, a ritualistic trap with glitter on top. So when people hear that David was often with Celeste, at clubs, at events she shouldn't have even gotten into at her age, the dots start connecting with those old stories. It feels like history repeating itself. A young, bright star surrounded by tragedy, a silent camp refusing to talk, and whispers of ritualistic sacrifice. Those parallels are what keep fueling the fire, because if it allegedly happened before with Whitney, Aaliyah, Kanye's mom, and Michael, why wouldn't it happen again? In this dark reading, Hollywood doesn't invent new scandals. It recycles the same ones, and Celeste may be the newest name on a very old, very ugly list. At the end of the day, what makes this whole story impossible to shake isn't just Celeste's tragic end or David's sudden rise. It's how the entire thing feels like déjà vu. Another young life gone too soon, another artist suddenly elevated, another headline where Hollywood's dirtiest whispers line up a little too neatly with reality. Allegedly, Katt Williams has been saying for years that the industry doesn't run on talent alone. He swears there's a toll, and you either pay it or you're locked out. Whether you think he's exposing truth or just stirring the pot, the Celeste connection makes his warning sound less like stand-up comedy and more like prophecy when it comes to David. And the silence, that's the loudest part of the whole thing. David hasn't spoken publicly, hasn't posted, hasn't offered a denial or explanation. He canceled his tour, shut down his lease, and vanished from his fans. To some, that looks like grief or maybe legal advice. To the gossip crowd, it looks like guilt. If he's innocent, why not say so? If Celeste's death was an accident, why not clear the air every single day? But every day he stays quiet, the whispers grow sharper, teeth showing. For Celeste, her legacy feels even more haunting. She was 15. She had been reported missing multiple times. She was allegedly slipping into clubs and industry events like a college kid with a bright future. Instead, she ended up as a cautionary tale, another young girl swallowed up by the machine. The sad truth? Her name is being remembered more in conspiracy threads than in memorials. And that's the real heartbreak of how gossip collides with grief. And then there's Hollywood itself. These pig party rumors aren't going anywhere. If anything, Celeste's story pours gasoline on them. People already side-eye Diddy's infamous gatherings, already believe Jaguar Wright's confessions, already remember Kanye's words about Donda. Now, a 15-year-old found in a Tesla linked to a rising star? That's the kind of headline that makes every old rumor feel brand new again. So what's next? Maybe nothing. Maybe this story fades into silence like so many before it. Or maybe someone else steps forward, another insider with nothing to lose, another voice like Katt Williams, ready to risk ridicule for telling the kinds of stories the industry desperately wants buried. Because here's the irony, the more Hollywood says nothing, the louder the whispers get. And right now, those whispers are chilling, saying Celeste wasn't just a victim, she was allegedly a sacrifice. And if that's true, then David's career isn't the start of a fairy tale, it's the beginning of a curse. Make sure to hit that like, share, comment, and subscribe, because this story isn't over yet.